Probably all wondering how I got here, but there's a more interesting question. Why are Gray and Colin both at the start of P-Box? Well, to answer that, we need to go back, far back. Well, not actually, just about 10 seconds.
We beat it.
Alright, log in.
Warp back.
Wait, what? Log back in. Alright. Click it.
Alright, click it. 3, 2, 1.
Let's go!
That's right, Gray and Colin finally beat Pandoras Box. And no one is positive, but it looks like Colin actually beat it twice. So where do I go from here? Is my quest to beat Pandoras Box over? Not quite. My goal was never to beat Pandoras Box first. It was to beat the hardest map in Minecraft parkour. And for the time being, that hasn't changed. But not too long ago, Colin got to Head 19 in Realm of Champions, which was previously considered to be humanly impossible. So if he proves ROC humanly viable, Pandoras Box won't be the hardest map anymore. Since Colin could ruin P-Box's accolade of being the hardest possible map, we have no time to waste. Let's jump right into it. Last episode it took me 8 hours to beat 24 maps. In this episode I will be going after the next 18 maps. Up first today is LCX. It took me around half an hour to beat. Rank X has always been my least favorite main rank up map. I think it may be because the build is so large, but it's pretty sparse of parkour, which I don't love because it makes the map feel empty. It's also easier than IX in my opinion, which I've always found a bit odd, but maybe other people disagree with that. The only real thing it's remembered for is having a Tyrone in S1-2, which a lot of new players struggle with, but it's really not that hard. The only other thing I have to note here is there's a jump near the end of the map that is pretty difficult when compared to the rest of the rank. I think the reason it's not remembered like the Tyrone is because it's fail-safe, while failing the Tyrone sends you back to the start. After rank X, I played Underground. I really don't have anything to point out here. It took me about 20 minutes to beat, and if a map's that short, it's a sign that nothing special is really going on. Don't worry, pretty soon maps like this will all be behind us. Mini Reactor is up next, and this is one of my favorite maps. The build is high quality and the parkour is engaging. I honestly don't really have anything else to say, and I kind of feel bad for giving a map I like so much so little screen time, but I don't want to waste your time just rambling. It's truly a solid map, and everyone should go play it if they haven't. Let's follow up one of my favorite maps with one of my least favorite, Islands. I'm not sure what inspired Dorneo to build this map, but I like to imagine that he played XIII and failed Sky and decided to recreate the map from memory, fueled only by their anger. Cause goddamn this map sucked. It's annoying the entire time, but especially the section right before Sky, and especially the L2L. It's dumb and stupidly hard, at least for me. I claimed 2 Sky fails right at the end, and that just hurt my soul. It's outclassed by XIII in every way, and I'm sorry for all the hate, Dorneo. I swear, it isn't personal. After playing Islands, I really needed a good experience, so I was not feeling hopeful when Bonus 7 was next on my list. But imagine my surprise when I actually loved it. I am a big sucker for city maps, with Zircon being my favorite parkour champion map, and Othorn's map City being one of my all-around favorite maps. And I guess mediocre parkour and a city theme is enough for me to have a good time. But that almost came to an end when I had a dumb Sky fail, but on my second attempt, I pulled through and won. After playing Bonus 7, we returned to the LC main ranks, with LCXI. I have a lot of feelings about this rank. Back when I played it for the first time in 2020, I think I had 16 Sky fails. Still by far the most I've ever had on any map, and it was a huge hurdle for me for like 6 months of quarantine. Even though me and XI have a history, I think it's a really good map. It's my 3rd favorite main rank, and I was on track to beat it in under 30 minutes this time, which had been really cool, but I had a dumb pre-Sky fail. But after that, I got back and beat the map in 15 minutes. Mini Padogas was up next, and my feelings on this one are complicated. I really liked the build, and the parkour was pretty fun. But my mind changed after my 4th time failing Sky. I was moving slowly already, but I would have still been the map in under an hour if I hadn't have failed Sky, and then it just kept happening over and over again, and the map overstayed its welcome, but that one's on me. After Mini Padogas, I needed a win, and up next was Ghost Ship. But I was playing so badly, and this was by far the hardest part of the challenge for me. Not because the parkour was hard, it wasn't, I was just in my head. I failed Sky 6 times, on top of like 20 transition fails. It was such a hellish experience I started considering if I wanted to give up on this quest entirely. I'm gonna get my revenge on this map though, mark my words. The win I desperately needed came with the next map, Magic Mountain. While it did still take me a while, finishing with a time around 2.5 hours, a lot of that was due to a bad S4 fail to start. This map had the longest LD section so far, and it felt good to get past it pretty easily. I didn't love the build, but the parkour was fun, and my spirits were high going into the next course, which was Deluxe. Deluxe is one of 3 evil versions of the main ranks. There's one for I, one for XII, and one for XIV. It's not too hard considering it's only an evil version of I, and I was on track to beat it in under 30 minutes, but I failed Sky, and then after that I failed Sky 2 more times. The only point I really struggled at was his hard cross knee up with a fence blocking it. There were also a couple dumb forced 3 ticks before Sky, but after spending 7 hours on Ghost Ship, a 2-hour win is enough for me. The second evil map is called Extra. It's an evil version of XII. And while we're not going to be doing that today, we are going to be playing the base version. XII only took me a little over an hour, so I feel like I've completely recovered from my Ghost Ship trauma. I don't really have anything else to note about this map, except for this was the first Sky that my hands were sweating on. I didn't fail it, and I probably shouldn't have been worried about XII Sky, but for some reason it had me sweat. I played School after XII, and given that the map feels super similar, I found it a little boring. I don't have too much to say about the map. The build was better than XII, which helped it not feel too repetitive, and Sky was long but pretty easy. But while we are in School, I want to give a brief crash course on the most common strategies used in parkour. First, let's go over ticks. A tick is how time is broken down in Minecraft. The game only checks for updates of input every tick. There are 20 ticks in a second, so every 0.05 seconds the game checks for an input. All strats are based upon this system. The most basic strategy would just be running for a certain number of ticks before jumping. Theoretically, you could run for any number of ticks before jumping, but there's only a few used commonly. 0 tick, also known as jam, is pressing W and jump on the same tick. 1 tick, also known as head hit, is pressing W and then 1 tick later jumping. This is also considered a little inconsistent and is avoided in most situations. 2 through 5 ticks are also used frequently, beyond 5 tick is rarely ever used. Another common strat is known as force momentum. This is where you jam forward without holding sprint and then X ticks later start sprinting. This is most commonly used when you have 1 block of momentum. Force momentum can be between 1 and 11 ticks. 1 tick force momentum is also known as max force momentum. 2 through 4 tick force momentums are all common but have no special name. Beyond 4 tick force momentum is sometimes used, but very rarely. The only other strat I want to point out here is called Carpet 4.5. It's where you 4 tick force momentum and then run for 1 tick before jumping after you land. It's the most efficient linear momentum you can get with 1 block of space. The last common strat I want to mention is called Pessy. Pessy is where you press jump and then X ticks later press W. Like force momentum, you can 1 through 11 tick Pessy. Pessys are used frequently because they're often considered the most consistent. They're also the best option for 2BC, which is where there's a ceiling right over your head. 1 tick Pessy is also known as max Pessy. 11 tick Pessy is known as A7, and it's the most consistent way to jump off the edge of a block, far more consistent than a head hit. 2 through 10 tick Pessy is all used, but 6 through 10 tick is pretty rare. Finally, similar to C4.5, a 4 tick Pessy plus running 1 tick is known as pain force momentum, and is usually the best way to get momentum on a pain. Alright, and that concludes our parkour lesson. Hopefully I didn't bore too many of you with that. After School was Hell 2. I didn't love this map, but mostly because I struggled on S2 for a long time. Overall, I enjoyed it, and it has me excited to play Hell 3 one day. I never failed Sky, thankfully, but man, I had so many close calls. Just watch this. In the end though, I pulled through. After Hell 2 was Mini Jury. I think I'm saying that right, I'm not sure. It's a no-prac map, meaning you can't practice, and that probably made this the hardest map in the video for me. But it's probably the map that I felt the proudest to beat. It taught me to rely on practice a lot less. This was probably the most stressful Sky so far due to the lack of practicing, but thankfully I one-shot it. The last jump especially was terrifying. You're supposed to flick the trapdoor to phase through it, but I realized you can just shift for 1 tick and you'll go under it. Next up is Temple. I really don't have anything to say on this map. I failed Sky once, so here's that. But other than that, nothing special. It took me 4 hours. After Temple was a mansion, probably my least favorite experience since Ghost Ship. It felt like the quality of a high-pixel housing house, and I had a really dumb Sky fail. It took me really long to beat because I played it while moving and working 50 hours a week, so I never sat down to play for more than like 15 minutes, but once I did, it didn't take too long. After Mansion was Bonus 8. This was my first map really getting back into the swing of things. It's not a bad map, the later bonus ranks definitely go up in quality. Though I didn't love the build, the parkour itself wasn't that bad. I thought I failed Sky at one point, but it ended up just being a transition, so I'm very glad I didn't have to increase the counter. And that brings us to our last map of the video, Arcade. I have to say, my hopes were high going into this map. The arcade maps are held in high regard, though mainly Arcade 3. And while the outside of the map looks really good, the inside of the machines often were ugly and filled with bad parkour. I had one bad transition fail between M5 and M6, but then I one-shot Sky. And that wraps up all the maps for this video. Here are my stats for just this video, and here are my overall stats. Next video, I'm going to go ahead and beat all the maps leading up to XIV and cap the video off with XIV. which is going to take a while, but I'm trying to speed through these easier maps because there isn't that much to talk about. If you made it this far, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.